Hello, Blue Ocean Faith parents and new Sunday school teachers. We have a new world that we're negotiating, and I wanted to take this opportunity to share with you some of the things I do with the Sunday school lesson, and hopefully it'll make your experiences ones of connection with your children. One of the challenges we have is actually getting their attention. We have our rhythms of our days, and if you think about the fact that the sun comes up and sets, but not at the same time, but in the same order. The sun does not set before it comes up. So your days are rhythmic. You have a rhythm, even though you may not know what it is, and many of you might know what it is. But in that rhythm, there are sections of time that you can squeeze in a Sunday school lesson and make it feel very organic and very just part of the day and not find a struggle. In the Shine curriculum, they gave, in the instruction area, they gave suggestions for how you might want to structure your day. I'm going to read them to you and I'm going to add one in. One is a single day option, which is to read the story after breakfast. And of course, that could be any meal. Say a prayer before lunch or breakfast or any meal. Play the songs in the background while you're playing with your children. Do the explore activities in the morning or in the afternoon. And sing a song at bedtime. So I love singing songs as transitions. We've done it. It's the Sunday service where we transition the children from the service to the Sunday school with this little light of mine. That might be the one you choose. There might be another one that you really like with your family. I always use transitions, especially when my children were little, like getting to the car and getting our shoes and jackets on. I had a little song that I would hum. It was Zoom Zoom, driving in the car, and I would hum it, and I would motion to them the direction we were going was the mudroom, and then we would put our shoes on, and there were no words that would pass between us. We were just humming this and putting our shoes and jackets on, and then I would start singing as we were loading in the car. It worked every time. It was wonderful. No struggles. So transitions with songs is really cool, or any other way. I know a teacher who transitioned her class by shutting the curtains in the room to signal that there was something changing. So then they have, I'm going to give you the 2-day option, which is telling the story on one day, either telling it as a nighttime story or as a daytime story, but not even asking any questions, just letting it sit. And after you tell it, go play a game or do some art or go to bed and sleep and let one day pass. That's letting new material rest. And then you engage it the next day. And the second day, I would engage a story. Never did it with Sunday school. I tried to do it from Sunday to Sunday, but it's not as easy as 2 days in a row. Asking, oh, what was the story that we heard? And then letting them tell me back, and then maybe dropping hints about what came next. And what this does is help build their memories. So that's the 2-day option, and in there you can add the prayers and the songs, however that fits your family. They suggest another option would be a 3-day option where you sing and pray on one day, you read and wonder on another day, and you explore and bless on the last day, the 3rd day. And finally, the other suggestion would be a 1-week option, which would be to sing on Sunday, to pray on Monday, to read together the version on Tuesday, and then to read the illustrated version together on Wednesday, and then to do the student activities on Thursday, complete the Explore on Friday, and do the media section, the read, watch, and listen items on Saturday. So whatever fits your family, this is supposed to be an easy fit, something that just slides into your lives the way they are, the way they're already structured. So one of the resources that comes with the notes that you get is a page that's just for the parents, because you learn a whole lot more about the story than they do. And the reason is, it worked for me. It worked like a little Bible study. I would have questions, like in the very first lesson I had a bunch of questions like, well, what I'm reading my notes now. Well, how does God communicate? How did God communicate with Abram? And how does God communicate with me? And I did a little bit of research on that because it seems so hard to grasp. How does God communicate with us? Well, in my life, every one of us has our own story. Every one of us has come to this particular congregation for lots of reasons. And many of them we want to make sure we pass on to our children. So anytime there's something in a lesson that you don't really agree with or haven't figured out, that's a great time to do the study and dig into it and find out for yourself, and maybe not do the lesson that week with them, do the singing and the praying, and maybe pull something out that you really liked about the lesson. So the questions I had in the first lesson was, how does God communicate with me? I said that once before. And how did he communicate with Abram? Well, I know many of the times God is communicating with me, it's through people or through books that come my way or information that comes my way. And I did a little bit more looking at that with Abram, and I don't know if you remember the name of Melchizedek, but Abram, when he conquered several of the kings in the area that they were living in, he was met by Melchizedek. It tells us in the Old Testament, in Genesis, that Melchizedek met him on the field and blessed him, and Abram gave him a tithe. Well, this was long before a tithe was ever required, like 400 plus years. But he knew about giving the tithe. And I don't know about you, but I don't give my money to just anybody. I give my money to causes that I believe in, that I am connected to. So Abram was connected to Melchizedek. And then you learn that in the New Testament that Jesus is a high priest after the order of Melchizedek. So I suspect that Melchizedek was not only the priest of Salem and the king of Salem, but he had a lot of things that he taught Abram. And perhaps that's how Abram heard from God. It's a possibility. Making this real for us and for our children, how we actually hear from God, makes it less woo-woo, I guess. I don't know what else to call that. So those were the kind of questions I ask. In that lesson, they also talk about building altars and traveling. One of the key questions I ask myself whenever I bring a lesson to children is, how does this relate to their lives at all? What is it in their lives that would resonate with this lesson? And I've had interesting responses, interesting things that I built my lessons out of. So those are kind of questions you can ask yourself. Combining tasks. I already mentioned the rhythm of the day. Keeping it simple. It's there as a resource. It's not meant for the whole thing to be used every week, every time. Connecting with your children and getting the lesson across that you want them to learn about God is the most important. And so making it your own. Asking yourself the question, what do I want my child to learn from this lesson? Reverence, being aware of their surroundings, learning cooperation, expanding their capacities for listening, for maybe reading, for writing, for expressing, building memory. That's always good. So this quarter has 13 lessons, and it goes from August 30th. So you've already had 2 lessons, and I know you've received the 3rd one, and it goes until November 22nd. The second lesson was about Isaac, the promised child. And the question I had when I read that lesson and how it would relate to the children is, well, what really are God's promises, and are they realistic? And I only asked that question coming from a background where, as a young person, I was extremely disappointed that God didn't heal my mother, and so many other things that it looked like, because of what I had been taught, that God was picking and choosing who He would bless, and maybe that meant that I was bad, that maybe, people that I loved weren't deserving. And I know none of that is true as an adult, but as kids we get that message, even though that may not be the message that we're trying to send, or that wasn't the message. So I looked at this, we can trust in God's promises, and I know for sure there's one promise that God gave, and that was that you would have a long life if you honored your mother and father. That's in the 10 Commandments. But when it comes to having children at an old age and all that other stuff, I would question that. I would get your answer to that. And feel comfortable with that, because they may ask, and it will be something that we convey to them, even if it's without words, that God is doing these miraculous things for other people and then not for us. I know one of the things I learned was that that God does not violate the universal rules that He's established, but that He will compress time. So that makes a lot of sense to me with a lot of the miracles. Some of them maybe not so much, but if a person was being healed of something, their bodies was going to heal anyway. And so, because God gave us miraculous bodies, they do wonderful jobs. We've survived thousands and thousands of years without modern medicine, and that's because He's created wonderful bodies that heal themselves. So knowing that God compresses time and that that's the miracle, I could live with that. That may not be the truth for your family, but that's how I resolved it. And that's how I can tell these stories and not feel badly about conveying the message that I mentioned earlier. Okay, this is week 3. It's Esau and Jacob. And Esau and Jacob were twins, and they were feuding brothers, and they were feuding. Sibling rivalry is what this lesson is about. And so that was my question, sibling rivalry. I went online and looked up and saw Mott's Children's Hospital has a page on children's rivalry. And so many things happened in this story. A lot of this the children will never learn, but us as adults, as we learn the story and make it our own so that we can tell it, teach it. I looked at the adults in this story, and the father and the mother have different favorites, and their favorites, which always makes it difficult with sibling relationships. And the mother helped the son, and then we have these two brothers that are warring, and how they finally come together at the end, and what Jacob, who was the guilty one, did by offering gifts to his brother, and that Esau forgave. And so I explored children's sibling rivalry, and how my question to myself is, how could I make this less an issue in my family? Of course, if you have a single only one child, this isn't an issue. It does come up, though, when you have their best friends come over and sleep, because any other child that you bring into the house, they're going to look at as rivalrous. I only know that because of what happened with my daughter and her best friend, who's an only child. And this may not be true of other families, but that's what I have to share with you. Thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful. I hope to do this on all the lessons that are coming up, give you my insights just as a way to help you process it and you can fit it into your family's life. God bless you and your children, and as you connect, this is a new way to connect. Enjoy. Thank you.